Hello audience, you're watching my favorite YouTube channel. I'm Chill, last name Monger, and here is some more further clarifications of what I was talking about yesterday about the new X-Men. From the Ashes, Marvel's ambitious X-Men relaunch revealed. After Krakoa falls, a new era begins for the X-Men. So it does look like Krakoa is no longer going to be. What does that mean for you and me? We'll see. Tom Brevoort is the editor of the comic book line, and we have these three, which we all saw in the trailer, and I saw, but I didn't realize that this was also revealed. There's a series that'll be called Phoenix, X Factor, which is a title that they've had before, like solving mysteries and whatnot. Storm, solo series for her, solo series for Wolverine, as to be expected. The Storm one is a surprise. X-Force, that's not a surprise, but there's got to be a reason for why there's going to be some more extreme of the X-Men. Let's call them the CIA of the mutants. And then there's the NYX series, which I remember is where Laura Kinney, X-23, debuted in. Comic book wise, this is where she debuted in. But NYX I always thought was shunned on because it was too graphic, because it had themes that were a bit too adult. And then when she was transferred over and we started seeing her in Uncanny X-Men and we started seeing X-23 in New X-Men with the Academy X, they depicted her as younger than you would have thought she was in NYX. With these 6 series coming out, yes, it is too many. It begins in the summer, and I did see the releases that you could see July 10, X-Men is coming, and then a month later, Uncanny X-Men is going to come in August 7, and then September 4 is when we get Exceptional X-Men. It is at least being paced out with the 3 titles. However, this gunk, these are all not ongoing series. We know Phoenix will be limited with Jean Grey. I just don't see something going for that long. I hope that it's an eventful comic book that comes out of this, because Jed MacKay is going to be taking care of the Cyclops character that was part of his roster in that image, and so he'll probably have something happen that will make you want to go see Phoenix if we're storytelling. X Factor, I don't know, you could make your own kind of stories coming out of this. Just if it's not having to do with the main stories, and I hope that these 3 are going to be intertwined and building towards something and have some sort of reason for why these teams are happening. I hope it's not just this writer, and this writer, and they will not be writing any of these comic books. I really hope and pray that these comic books here are going to be also written by these ones here. So that way, of course, continuity is super important in comic books. You won't have to send no email. So this guy understanding what's happening in X Factor knows what's happening in Exceptional, knows what's happening with Wolverine, so they don't cross hairs with Phoenix, so we don't cross. Why don't we just have the same team of these 3 doubling up on a book? Ewing can do Storm. Simone can do Wolverine and X-Force. X Factor can go to Jed MacKay, and Phoenix can go to Jed MacKay. Over their 60-year history, the X-Men have been many things. Outcasts, teachers, revolutionaries, heroes. Above all, they're a species, and the future is still theirs for the taking. Marvel teased in a press release. Krakoa showed the world with what Homo Superior is truly capable of, and now the X-Men have to fight harder than ever to keep Professor X's dream alive. Professor X's dream vanished when Jonathan Hickman had him talking to Moira on that bench. His dream... So to revisit this dream, this optimistic dream that we can actually do it, I thought with what Moira did, her experiences of We Always Lose, should have been the snapping point for Professor X and the mutants in general. I hoped it would have been. But it's a pretty good dream. No, we're going to still try harder. We just learned 10 ways that it doesn't work. We're going to try this 11th try to make the 10 lives of Moira. So we're going to try an 11th try. These 3 core series will approach the X-Men's vital mission with distinct and relevant perspectives. I am happy that they're calling Eve Ewing's series a core series. It just doesn't feel like that, while remaining faithful to the storytelling power of the mutant metaphor. The mutant metaphor. If they're good, they can make the mutant metaphor be convincing to make readers be less hateful. That's a possibility. Jed MacKay. He gets Cyclops, Magneto, Beast, Psylocke, Kid Omega, Temper, formerly known as Oya, Oh, she's got her own little nickname now. Magic and Juggernaut. The short version of Temper, aka Oya, formerly known as Oya, short version that I did last time. Black characters come in and come out. They're shuffled here and they're shuffled there. I know what you thought of her in the past, and so I'm not convinced that she has any staying power for the future. If we go 3-4 years using this character, and we stop using her after the next kind of reboot of X-Men, the same way you're not seemingly using the character Sync, I don't see Sync in any of these things, in the core series. I'm going to look at the Oya inclusion as nothing but everybody's white. Okay, we got to throw in a black. Okay, good. We were almost bigots right there. That's all that is. It's like racism repellent. Tom Brevoort on his newsletter, did talk about racism and their lack of inclusion. And I want to slap the shit out of him for this Oya. Why not continue with Sync? I hope that there's a storyline reason for why Oya is going to be important to this team. I hope. There should be, because just to reach out and get that character out of nowhere would be weird. There's got to be a reason for her. This series features Cyclops leading a team of heavy hitters from... some of them are heavy hitters. From a remote base in Alaska. Marvel teases that the team is battling for the destiny and philosophy of the mutant species. All right, that's the X-Men I know. The X-Men are fractured in the aftermath of the end of Krakoa, scattered across the globe without a central base of operation. They have psychics, though. Can they go like, hey, everyone meet in this town? So, again, we need a storyline reason for why that's not happening. What that means in practice is that all 3 titles carrying the name X-Men are core X-Men series. I don't believe this bullshit. I know that the Uncanny X-Men and the X-Men are the core series. I know the one where you got Emma Frost and Kate, which are, they're known, they're mainstays. But these 3 randos that you also got, don't try to tell me these are the core X-Men series. That third one is a core X-Men series. It's still something. At least he's hyping it up. Like, it's still promotional, so I got to give it up to Tom. He's trying to say, I'm going to give you every reason not to read Eve. I'm going to give you every reason to read Eve Ewing's book, okay? Put a hot ass artist on, Carmen Carnero. I'm gonna make it matter. So he's trying. Good for him. Like, we have to give him compliments for that. I'm also not going to pretend I don't see what I see, which is Wolverine is in this book, Cyclops is in this book. Core X-Men series. They all center around one of the major aspects of what team has been about at different points. Yeah. Because I've heard that this is going to be about school. We just heard that this one is about battling for the destiny and philosophy of the mutant species. Yeah. We want to field a wide assortment of X titles with different styles and tones and approaches, an X-Men book for virtually any taste. Now, Tom, that sounds nice. Everyone's going to be pleased with an X-Men book for everyone. But which is the X-Men book? Which is the one that matters and is consequential and has storyline that will be built on and furthered? I don't believe that all 3 of them will. I don't believe that all 9 of these are going to be it, which is the main core title to move things forward. Which one, when you do an event, will have the most... you would have need to have read Uncanny X-Men to read the event, If Jed McKay is doing the event, then I'm going to be like, okay, well, X-Men is the main event. This is the main, better usage of words. X-Men is the core series because Jed McKay is directing what happens in that crossover event of next summer. And now I know that his was the premier title. I also can kind of see it through this picture. If you've got Magneto on your team with this guy, and he's a main eventer also with Beast, Stegman drew a pretty good image of him running. Wow. Psylocke's been, I don't know if it's Quanon or Psylocke. That one there, it's Psylocke. Psylocke's been important. I can tell this is the main book. Quentin Quire's been somewhat important. But that's if Quentin Quire is like one of your last mutants, then we know this is going to be prime time important. If your main mutant is Kitty Pryde, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be as important as the one with Wolverine, Rogue's husband, Jubilee, and Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's in the background. You think this one's not going to be important? Uncanny X-Men? Man. Uncanny X-Men is done by Gail Simone. She's doing the Free Comic Book Day Spotlight, so that's coming in the first Saturday of May. Rogue, Wolverine, Nightcrawler. and Jubilee. The series looks to be the most traditional of the three, with Rogue leading a team. Oh, Rogue is leading, my mistake. Out of New Orleans. I guess that includes why he'd be over here with his kinetic energy magic cards and his staff. And the emphasis on the X-Men as outlaw superheroes in New Orleans. The roster is fairly similar to the iconic blue team from the 90s, and the series may be aimed at tapping into the nostalgia surrounding the upcoming animated revival series of X-Men 97. I would bet on it, yeah. Because 4 of these characters are on that X-Men 97. Just not Nightcrawler. Exceptional X-Men. No X-Men line would be complete without a series focused on the next generation of mutant heroes. Pause. This is a true statement. I agree with that statement. That no X-Men is complete without these characters, these new ones. Time doesn't move in Marvel Comics, so the new characters that you've created 10 years ago, they're still just as young and as fresh and as viable to fit in for this new era of X-Men teams. Even the New Mutants who were invented in the 80s, they're still pretty young. The need to create new characters like Bronze, Axo, and Melee, that's their name. So the need for these characters isn't necessary. It's going to be like, who are the forgettable characters of this era? Because we've had Wolverine and the X-Men when they had Shark Girl and Lava Boy and Nature Girl. And we've had characters during Academy X era like Noriko, who keeps losing the X-Men election, and Julian Keller, Hellion. I think he's not amputated anymore, I hope. Dust. We keep getting new characters, and they're not used for a long time. The Five Lights had Ayo, or Temper as she's called now, and she's kind of been relegated to nothingness for a long time. Gold Balls was barely used at all until in comes Hickman, like 6 years later after Gold Balls was invented, and goes, I got a reason for Fabio Medino. I can make him one of the Resurrectors, one of the Five Lights. The five. New characters are not the solution. Just as like the writer of Champions should know, Ewing, where is the Champions today that you were working with? Where's Amadeus Cho appearing at? Ironheart. It's really Kamala and Miles. For those 2 new characters past 2000, those are the 2 new characters who have stayed, who have had appearances, their own solo comic book. You know? The other characters don't. It's just a waste of time to me. I'm not going to be fully invested in Bronze, Axo, and Melee. It's hard to get me to like 3 New Mutants. I'd have preferred elevating ones who kind of already have a fan base and maybe happy to see them, as opposed to new characters, Bronze, Axo, and Melee. It's frustrating knowing what will work, what hasn't worked, seeing the data, seeing sales, seeing how everything that they think they can do has a rare percentage of actually working. There is a need for young X-Men. There's been books called Young X-Men. Use them. Enoli, figure out what's going on with Rockslide. Is he still going to be from another dimension of probability? Whatever it was he did. It was so bizarre. Like, they weren't killing characters, but what they did to Rockslide was, he's done. He's no longer Rockslide. In order to make me think Bronze, Axo, Melee are going to matter in the future, I need to know that the ones you've created recently, matter, and they're not being featured. Every comic book from the Academy X era, here's an image of them. Where about these characters here? All these characters on your screen with young mutants. I'm going to fill the screen, and you're going to see all these mutants. There's that Cub one. All of these mutants. So I'm asking now, if those all didn't matter, why in the fuck, with like 2 syllables, why in the fuck does Axo, Bronze, and Melee matter? No matter how hard you try, you cannot control what the next writer does. And it looks like the next writer is going to do what you guys are doing right now currently and saying, we don't care about recent new characters, but you'll like our current new characters. Well, and maybe the answer to why it's going to matter is, maybe the answer is going to be, well, see, This mutant is the first blank of color mutant. So, okay, we'll see how that works. I don't think it will work. I don't want to dig deeper into that because it's the sensitivity for Chillmonger just engaged in hate speech is there, and I will not participate. Precipitate would be raining, and I'm raining on the parade, but I don't want to participate in anything that can be conceived as anti, inclusion. I don't want that. Let's keep reading this exceptional X-Men data. As you notice, guys, this has been a long read compared to how short Uncanny X-Men description was, and then how short this description was. So let's see what they got. So I do agree there's a need for a younger team. There's a need for teaching the next generation. I love that part of the X-Men. More than I like a lot of other parts of the X-Men, the whole survival thing. New mutants, young people living together, trying to figure out how our powers work and growing. What's the potential that maybe they one day will be just as important as Wolverine? The hope. In this series, Kate Pryde is summoned back into the fray to shepherd a cast of new characters. Naturally, she'll be working alongside her best frenemy, Emma Frost. Good dynamic, of course. Longtime fans of Kitty can count on the kinds of adventures you expect from her as a classic favorite, while I hope new and old readers alike will get to love this all-new team of young mutants, Eve L. Ewing said. Kitty, the one-time kid sister figure of the X-Men, has to reckon with her own memories, good and bad. Maybe that's why they're going back to the name Kitty. She keeps calling her Kitty. Old and bad, of being a child of Xavier, as she navigates as a role as a leader and mentor for the new generation of mutants who are trying to make their way in a time of crisis. She was a mutant teacher during the Jason Aaron, Wolverine and the X-Men. A really young teacher, by the way. I don't know when she did her how long does it take to get a teacher's license in New York State? Jubilee, she probably warped a computer and then they printed her diploma. I always try to strike a chord between appealing to veteran comic fans and new readers, which she does do. There's always an editor's note in an E-viewing comic saying, go check out this. Do you recognize this? But since so many people fell in love with the X-Men as teens, and this book is about a team of young folks, that feels especially important to me here. I hope that for some 13 and 14-year-old readers, side note, she used to teach middle school. 13 and 14-year-old readers, this might be the first comic book they pick up. Working on this series has been a ton of fun already, as Carmen Carnero's art is bringing so much dynamism to these pages, and the entire X team of writers is in the entire X team? Oh, how many members? Is in a flurry, sharing scripts and feedbacks and ideas. These 3 books were the focus of Marvel's panel, and the publisher is teasing reveals of more titles. Oh boy, we don't need more titles unless you end some of these titles because they're limited series. 9 is a lot. Both team focused and solo character focused. In the weeks ahead, stay tuned to IGN as more news. I'll be staying tuned to IGN or wherever else they feed this information to. This was cool. Knowing that we're the promotional art looks wonderful. My goodness. We got the Uncanny X-Men, Gail Simone, David Marquez. Nightcrawler's looking beautiful. Oh, there's abs on Jubilee. I didn't even notice that. You can see some definition there. And you got Rogue, Wolverine in the yellow, and it's not brown. It's dark black, dark blue. And her husband, whose name I'm not allowed to say because the guy who owns Rogue Comics told me I'm forbidden from it. And then we go to the center. We got Temper, Magneto. Oh, he's in a chair. That's weird. That's very Professor X of him, in a levitating chair. Quinn Quire, very interesting character who Grant Morrison gave a little bit of focus on during his new X-Men title when he was the premier X-Men writer. And look at that. This guy was part of the main X-Men title all those years ago, and he's still being featured today. And he people never really let go of him. He was still used in X-Force. He was used. Obviously not a top 10 character in the X-Men, but he's in the top 20. Just like Sync was. Sync was in a top 20 position just in the previous, in Jordan D. White's era. Where in the fuck is Sync? Or Manifold? Or even Monet? Where are these characters? Her inclusion, I believe, satisfies the diversity, oh look, we're not being racist. And if you just needed to satisfy the, oh look, we're not being racist, I'd have much preferred for the same black characters to keep appearing so that they can grow a fan base. They can be proven that these are not experiments that we do here and there every 4 years. This one's a mainstay. Now, if you read the X-Men, you know how you keep seeing Ileana pop up in meaningful roles and you keep seeing Beast show up? Well, this Black Mutant is just as important. They really think they're changing the world and making the world a better place, and they're providing racial healing by making this character important, or at least 1/7 of the main team. They really think they're doing something here. It's a long-term battle, and you're already fucking up. Like, you're screwing it over. You're dropping the ball by featuring a black character to satisfy your black tolerance. Because let's be real, guys, you don't have very much of it. Let's be real, everybody. Ugh. There's optimism, there's pessimism, there's happiness and sadness. A lot of emotions that I'm having. Of the new titles, I would hope that Phoenix and X Factor have a reason to happen and they're not cash grabs only. It's a business, they're going to do things to make money, but I hope they're not cash grabs. Storm. If there's one important series coming out from this era, it's this comic book. The way I'm going to cover this, because like I said before, there's only 2 black characters in Marvel. One of them is Storm. I will buy this comic book and all the variant covers of this comic book and do everything in my power to make sure that this lead character is worthy of an ongoing series, and do everything in my power to cover this character and have a community and a panel talking about this character series and just magnifying the importance of her, because her skin is dark and white supremacy is bad. I need this book to go for a 3rd trade paperback and go for a 4th and a 5th. And the same way that Benjamin Percy did an X-Force book that went 50 issues from the beginning of that Krakoan quote-unquote era, the same way that that's been going for 50, I want to make Storm go for 50 also. I hope even Eve Ewing is writing this character so that we can get Black Panther-related stuff associated with Storm, as she was the writer of Black Panther. Or I hope Jed McKay or Gail Simone is writing this comic book, and not just some newbie who's getting a chance. That's not what you're doing with Wolverine. Wolverine, there's nothing to be worried about. This series will sell just because it's Wolverine. You don't even actually have to need anything lead into the Wolverine series. You can just say, by the way, he's got his own comic book, so you get more Logan. You can read Logan in the first series up there. Where's it up here? In the Jed Gale. You can read Wolverine in Gail Simone's comic book, and there's more Wolverine over here too. He'll probably be in X-Force, as he usually is. X-23 could be in here, and maybe that's where X-23's Boo can be featured. Not top 3, not top, but if he is featured, I will be less upset, because the push isn't the main core X-Men title. So I'll be less upset if Sync appears here. NYX is a wild card. Whatever they do will be a short limited series. There's no way this is ongoing. And we need to have the talent associated. The names are all here. Simone and Marquez, McKay and Stegman, Ewing and Carnero. But the names are not associated to these titles yet, as well as characters. Jean Grey probably going to be really important in this one. X Factor, Multiple Man, who's going to be really important here, I just hope there's a reason for why there's an X Factor title coming, and it's not just, oh, fans will remember this brand. Let's throw it out there, see if it sticks. Same with X-Force. Please give me a reason for these. There was a time I was really pleased to be talking about a new story, a new thing, new, and now they're asking me for so much money that I can't be so pleased with it, especially with how much I've been disappointed. It's a new era. They haven't disappointed me yet. I can see some of the red flags, and I can also see potential, and I just got to drive down that road. And should I need to take a pit stop and say, fine, I'm not going to be invested in all 3 of these core series. I'm not going to be invested in all 3. I'll just stick to my Storm title, and that'll be that. That's the worst that can happen for them. That they can lose my money by the time we get to November, right? November-ish. I'll have read a couple of each of the first 3. I'm not inclined to buy X Factor, Phoenix. I'm not inclined to buy all of those. Like they said, you don't have to buy everything. Everyone's taste. We got something for everyone's taste. Yeah. Storm is my taste. And so that's where I'm going to go with my dollar. And by not paying for the other ones, maybe by comparison, it'll make Storm look not so bad. That's a very destructive way of thinking, but that's how I'm thinking about. This is going to be the Storm comic book channel. Look out for that. Be a subscriber. If you're not subscribed, go down there and just subscribe. Check out all of the Black Panther related comic books. There's an e-viewing volume number 9 playlist where you can see I got an issue 1 review, T'Challa Time number 1 review, issue number 2 review, followed by a T'Challa Time where I go to and T'Challa Time is like when I do the panel. So for example, this is when we were venting about being canceled, invited a whole panel to do T'Challa. I got issue number 9. We all join, we chit-chat, we talk about the comic book, and that's the video I'm going to direct you to if you're a fan of the Black Panther franchise. And if I can do that for this character, and I told you that there's only 2 black characters in Marvel, you know I'm going to be doing it for the Storm character as well, so long as that series continues. The only 2 black characters worth it. The only 2 oh my god, remember that Pepe Le Raz? Everyone enjoy Back of the Bus as they react to that image that Pepe Le Raz drew where there was only 1 black mutant.
Here, let me see if I can find a picture of it. What are you picking up out of that? What do you see? Or what do you not see?
I don't see a background, first of all.
Well, that's not the point.
What don't I see? Oh my gosh, no.
I really had that ad play, and I'm letting that one play. Look, I'm not even going to skip this.
Oh, no. Okay, there's Storm.
Well, I mean, of course, we knew Storm had to be there.
And who is this?
You're actually doing your job by looking at...
By looking for black people?
That's Gateway.
Got you.
Australian, Aboriginal.
Okay.
So...
Those were the 2 people that black people that I saw in that cover.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely nuts. I mean, just this Professor X, Magneto, Shogo, the Dragon is even there. Holy shit. The only black person they found fit to put on the Legacy 700 issue was fucking Storm.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
Like, it was hard not to look through, like, from left to right and not see a bunch of blonde-haired white people.
Son of a bitch.
But they're all following Professor X, and Professor X didn't play that black shit.
I'm just sitting here now looking at the new era of X-Men, and why should issue number 800's big cover art feature a black character? What is Temper going to do if Temper is going to be treated the same way Sync was treated, and treated like every other black character we've ever had, who is not Storm, and just be replaced and not used, and then we'll spotlight one more time just to maybe have a story over here on the 5th X-Men title down the line. And then, like, why are you doing Temper rather than looking at the ranking of your X-Men characters and going, who is black and in the top 50 of our X-Men characters? Instead of taking Temper and reaching all the way down there and using her and utilizing her because representation is important, which it is, but you don't understand it. Instead of taking someone with such a disability, such a handicap, how about we use a character who's at least number 30 in the rankings and promote that one character up until they're more important and more important and more important. Sync was that character. Ugh. Or Manifold. Ugh. Like Jonathan Hickman used him. And Jonathan Hickman has readership and people know who Manifold is. And so did Al Ewing. Okay. Resume the elevation. Too many dumbasses are going to say, why are you upset, huh? That is a mutant of African origin, and that character is getting spotlit. That's so you. I'm thinking long-term, you dumbass. It's just slap for you. I'm thinking long-term of how we're ever going to get to a place where the mutants whose skin is dark and they're from that continent that we call Africa, how do we ever have them be important when they keep being unfeatured. New Mutants are never. It's like, stop living in the moment. That's the problem. You live in the moment and you think that Io, Temper, is a thing. Oh, they gave her a name. Whoop-de-doo.